welcome back to the podcast. We are here with an internet marketing man, myth, legend. He's been around forever. If you've ever heard of Webinar Jam, EverWebinar, CardShred, Deal Guardian, Butterfly Marketing, Pay.com, Evergreen Business System, Mike created the first course on marketing funnels, and he has made all kinds of innovations in internet marketing and software. His new platform is called Groove Digital. They're at groove.cm. They're the fastest growing software platform for digital and e-commerce marketers, and they're looking to go toe-to-toe with competitors like MailChimp, Shopify, ClickFunnels. Mike's goal is to take the friction out of running businesses for companies and entrepreneurs. Mike, so much to talk about. Glad to see you.
It's great to see you again, Robert, and I'm excited about this one.
I'm excited too. You never know where it will go. I mean, I've known you almost 20 years. I remember when you had recently quit the car dealership. I remember Free Joe Kumar. Wonder whatever happened to him.
Wow. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So much has happened that we've forgotten and learned and relearned. So what are you up to? What has been the result of all these decades of marketing experience?
Well, Robert, you're a software guy too, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to, me and my brother, we were on the cusp of two different generations. He was graduating 1983 for high school. I graduated 1985. So his formative years was Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, that type of stuff, the long hair parted in the middle. I was the MTV generation, Rock and Wrestling Federation. And at that time, the Commodore 64 came out. And I started programming on that. I knew programming better than my teachers. There just wasn't an outlet for me to go to. I went to New York Institute of Technology. I'm 3 years into that. And my brother's doing about $50,000, $60,000 a year selling cars. My father owns a car dealership. And I'm like, where am I going to go work? For WordPerfect or Lotus 123 or, help some company, make recipe books? There wasn't really the software development that there is today. So I got out of dropped out of New York Institute of Technology after 3 years, and I got into the car business. And at that time, I went through the 90s, the internet started coming out. And by the early 2000s, it was getting to the point where people were starting to build websites. And so that was finally things had come full circle. And after 14 years in the car business, I jumped online and I took my knowledge of computer programming and my salesmanship from the car business, and I combined the two. A lot of people know me as an internet marketer, but there's been very, very few things that I have done in my career that didn't involve software. And the first 10 years was everybody trying to figure it out. Even when WordPress came out, like WordPress was so new and went through different iterations. Now it's at the point where digital marketing, everybody understands, to be an influencer or e-commerce marketer or digital marketer. You probably remember this. We were talking about when, we were on the Marketers Cruise almost 10 years ago. But even that time and just before that, if we were there, people would ask us, what do you do for a living? And we used the term back then, I'm an internet marketer. And they would go, so what does that mean? I'm a plumber. Can you build me a website? And we were like, well, that's not really what we do. And people didn't understand it. Today, people completely understand what we do. People understand what influencers are, infopreneurs, passion project people. So all of the different software that we all struggled with over the years have gotten, I would say, pretty much more concise and more powerful. The thing is that all of these different platforms are needed to run an online business, and they cost anywhere from $99 to $299 a month. And for the new person getting started, to get 15, there's actually about 18, even if you just went with 10 or 12 of them. Email marketing, like you said, a website, e-commerce stores, you're going to be spending $2,000 to $3,000 a month to get your business going while you're still figuring it out. So we wanted to combine all of the different platforms in one. And because of my experience creating some of those platforms in the past and my development, we were able to put them all in one, and people seem to like it.
Well, awesome. And I can really relate to what you're talking about there of not wanting to just be a programmer, not wanting to just work for IBM or WordPerfect or something, kind of using other parts of your brain, right? Saying like, well, let's combine let's take the salesmanship part of it. Let's take this user interface part of it and engineer it in a way that like make sense to me as a user, and playing around with like funnels and conversions, and sort of using not just the programming brain, but also using kind of these more like marketing pieces of it. And it's kind of cool because like one of the things that really sticks out for me, as far as I think one of the things that early on impressed me about you, like super long ago, was you said email every day. And that was back in the days of people saying like, well, have a monthly newsletter, or like write like a 10-page long email. And one email even comes to mind from you where it was an email that just said like, this will change your life. Click on this link for this. And it's like, there's sometimes like counterintuitive, or there's more like kind of like mechanical programming, numbers, robotic kind of things that are true, that maybe define kind of common logic, right? And so kind of putting all that on the table there, like with people who are coming to you using Groove, being frustrated in these ways that you described, where are people missing the mark? Like what kind of message you want to get across today about like, how do people screw up in their businesses that Groove can help solve?
Well, I want to touch upon what you said about emailing every day. I remember that discussion back in the Warrior Forum, and people were talking about that. And I always felt that the email is the opening to a conversation that needs to be continued somewhere else. And I always felt that if somebody sent me an email and there was no link to click, they did me a disservice. It was like, wow, I just read this and I don't have any, I don't have any closure here. Like it didn't, I want to go somewhere else to see the proof that was in the email. So I think now with YouTube and social media, you have an opportunity, and going to live events and networking, you have an opportunity to get people to know, like, and trust you. And then email is just a bridge. It's a gateway to start a conversation. And then you can have them click and go somewhere else. And one of the things that, we've always encouraged people to do is to continue their education, but we like to help them. And that's to answer the second part of your question, is to help them understand when is the right time to purchase something and when it isn't. And so one of the biggest mistakes I see people making online is they ask questions like, Mike, if you were to start all over again, what would you do different? Or what's the fastest way to make money online? And some of the things I like to tell them is, well, don't focus on me and don't worry about those questions. The fastest way you can make money is basically grabbing a gun and going to a bank and robbing it. It's the truth. It's the wrong question to ask. What you really want to do is look within and say, what is something I'm passionate about? What is my expertise? And then go on that journey. And I tell people, we've heard the expression, plan your work and work your plan. It's really that simple. When you have an idea or something that you want, get out that legal board or go to a whiteboard and write down every single thing that you can think of. I need to come up with a brand name. I'll need to buy a domain name. I'll need to create a product. I'll need support. I'll need a merchant account. I'll need to do a video sales letter. Well, I'll need a camera. And you just write all of those things down. And the next thing you do is you put that into priority, because the last thing we want to do is, buy the domain name the day before we go live, right? So you put that in order, and then you'll have a list of maybe 18, 20, 25 things that you need to do. And you just start knocking out those things, knowing at the end of that list is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So this is where the mistake happens, is, you need to know that when somebody like you or me or any other marketer, we get on these email lists and we're invited to webinars and there's always something to sell. It's okay to attend those things. It's okay to investigate. When it comes time to purchase, we have to ask one question. Does buying that product make it easier, more affordable, and more effective for me to get through my list? And if it doesn't, you throw it out. Doesn't matter if it's the best thing for Bitcoin bots or affiliate marketing or this new way to do something on Amazon or Shopify, whatever the case is. The truth is, every one of those things will work, but only one will work for you. If you try to do all 6 things, be an e-commerce marketer, an affiliate marketer, right out of the gate especially, you're going to fail. It's like setting up plates and spinning them. And if you've ever seen anybody on stage spinning all those plates, it all ends the same way. They eventually crash and burn. So if you have the money to buy something and it's in the cash flow and it can help you get through it quicker, by all means, do it. And they're going to come up to each one of those things on their list. Not everything they can do. Now they have a choice. Do they go research it on YouTube? Do they buy a product to teach them how to do it? Do they pay somebody else to do it? Do they barter with somebody to do it? One way or another, that has to get done. And sometimes, even if you can do it, you might have to say to yourself sometimes, that's not my highest use and best use. I might spend 3 weeks trying to get this done, where I can go to Fiverr and pay somebody $80 to get it done and knock it off the list. But again, the last thing that they want to do is, be two-thirds of that way down, get on a webinar and get distracted about another way to make money online. That's just going to take them off the path. And eventually they'll run out of resources and their dreams just fail.
Right. Resources like run out of time, all the distractions pull up, run out of money, run out of energy. Yeah, it seems like a recipe for failure the way that you lay it out. But then kind of from the outside looking in, it seems so simple, right? It's one of these things where when you're in it, when you have these bad destructive habits, you have no idea what's going on around you. But when you do the Mike Filsaime approach of kind of saying, well, am I asking even the wrong questions? Or maybe let me go back and look at the beginning and say, I want to start my online business. And you're figuring out sort of this kind of time management, product or project management kind of stuff, right? Like you're putting your programmer brain to work. You're saying, well, here are the things I need to do. And then I'm putting them in order of importance, knowing that some things are so unimportant they can wait until 6 months from now. Some things are for right now. And I even heard a saying from you way back, and you were saying something like, well, let's say you have an idea for 3 different projects, and yes, it'll take you 3 months to do each one. Now, do you want to wait 9 months for all 3 to be done at the same time, or just do 3 months here, 3 months here, 3 months there? And so kind of similar idea of these people just kind of having the bad habit of setting themselves up for failure. And I know that my problem when I was super young was I would start on a plan and never finish it. And I wasn't even consciously aware that I'd write out 70 out of 100 steps and then get bored or turn the page on the notebook and start on a new list. And I thought, man, to-do lists must not work. And it's like, no, I didn't actually finish the to-do list that I had started, or my order of importance was in fun. And I thought, oh, it'd be cool to register that domain name. It'd be cool to make that logo. And my problem was my sorting algorithm was on checking off the boxes and doing the fun, easy things first. And it's like, well, maybe we need to make the proof of concept, the minimum viable product first, or get a basic demo or figured out, or like a simple landing page. And so yeah, it's like sometimes we're asking the wrong questions, right?
Yeah, multitasking. I remember that presentation from the 7-Figure Code. And that was something I had learned from Rich Sheffrin, and about working on too many projects at the same time. And it was about focus on one thing, no matter how enticing other things are. If you're going to start trading your time from one project to another, it's just going to take you longer to get both projects done, where you could complete one project, get it done, start on the next, get it done. And a completed project means money in the bank. And that's why you want to be focusing to get those projects done.
And what that sort of reminds me of is like you're a, former car salesman. And I heard something once about, don't spend all your time creating a fancy spreadsheet and a fancy list. Just like start making phone calls, start taking some kind of action. Sometimes it's more important just to get some momentum and to get some progress made than that always have your ducks in a row. It's things like that.
Yeah, fail quickly. There's nothing, you will learn more from your failures than you will from your education. So you can go through a Facebook course and you'll remember some of it, but in a month you'll forget most of it. When you actually go and build your first campaign and you get the guts to go put $100 out there, and you see, oh my goodness, I spent $100 and it brought back 30. There's some type of, you made a little sale for one ebook at $27. You're like, okay, something worked, but I still lost money. You're going to be able to look at maybe your 4 different campaigns and see these 3 didn't work at all, but this one did. Let me try more variations of that. Now you spend another 100 and you make 90. You're like, okay, I failed again, but I'm improving. I only lost $10. Let me take what I've learned from Facebook right there. Maybe not target everybody, maybe just the United States, and maybe most of my customers are over 30. Let's get rid of the people from 18 to 25, or whatever the case may be. And you could start to dial in. And then once you spend that 100 and now you make 200, that's when we say, oh my goodness, I've cracked the code. So too often, Robert, like we were saying before the podcast, we see each other at events, and too often I'll see somebody at an event and it'll be 2-3 years later. And I say, oh, how's it going with that SEO project? And they go, good. Coming along, still creating my master plan and making sure I get everything right before we launch it. And I say, brother, you got to get that thing out now. Just go get it out there, because it's never going to be perfect. You have to fail quickly and love failure. Same way a baseball player gets in the Hall of Fame by failing 70% of the time for his career. It's okay to fail. That's where all of the true education comes from.
And they say failure is the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. And
I love
kind
that.
of from, yeah, and I think maybe that's Albert Einstein or someone along those lines. But even kind of with those scenarios you laid out, what comes to mind for me is like, it's like an amount of how much do you want to narrow the focus. And you and I have come across people at events all the time that say something like, well, I've spent $60,000 in my internet marketing education so far. And I'm thinking like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you look at it too wide of a scope? And it kind of reminds me of when you're saying, look at this ad, look at this ad. Don't look at this whole wide range and all these failures. Look at the few successes and look at to multiply those successes. And same amount of thinking of 2 years later, the guy's still working on the SEO project. He's thinking too big. He needs to be thinking in terms of like, what am I going to do to move the software along like this month, this week? Can I just get it out there? Can I just get it working? And so since we're talking about failure here, does an important failure come to mind for you within the last like 5 years or so?
Yes, absolutely. It was the most catastrophic thing that ever happened in my life. And so we're going to get out of, maybe like the beginner, but it's a great lesson for everybody. You're going to come across something in your career, no matter what it is as an entrepreneur, when you're going to find that there's an opportunity to accelerate faster by having a partner. Sometimes your partner is the copywriter and the marketer, and you're the programmer, or vice versa. They know operations and accounting, or they know fundraising and capital investments, but there's always a way to work with a partner that can accelerate. One of the things that we have to understand is that partnerships are like marriages, and you can love someone, but things don't always work out. And that happened in the case with my previous company. Andy and I were very, very good friends, and we were actually good partners. We just we didn't have the same vision for the way we wanted the software to go, and it just wasn't fun. And I'm sure I wasn't making it fun for him either, regardless of how entertaining we looked on camera in our videos and everything like that. We just didn't see eye to eye. And one of the mistakes there was that, when you look at, the yin yang, right? We weren't a yin yang. We were a yin yin. We didn't bring anything different to the table. We were both brilliant marketers. He was a little better on video, maybe me a little better with copywriting or whatever the case, but we were both great marketers. And that actually slowed us down. Every time we had something good, we gave it to the other and said, hey, what do you think about this? And rather than just getting what we were saying, just get a video sales letter out, we would spend 3 weeks improving ours up there, trying to help each other out a little bit, where if he wasn't there and he was just doing the accounting, then I could have just gotten that out 3 weeks earlier. But the real lesson there is that you have to have a contract for everything you do. You can't just form an LLC and say, okay, now we're partners and we're just going to split the profits. You have to look at every single thing. And by the way, Andy did pass away from pancreatic cancer. I was already out of the company, but those are questions that need to ask them. What happens if I become incapacitated? What happens if I don't want to work here anymore? What does it look like when somebody doesn't want to work, but they still want to get distributions? What are the salaries? All those different types of things have to come in place. But for me, what happened in my previous company that won't happen in this company, even though I own less than 50%, is when I had the software companies, Andy and I were doing info products, and I was about to do Webinar Jam. And I asked Andy to come along with that project. Well, frankly, he said, Mike, you have to pick that partner or me. I can't sit here for 6 months while you go launch something. And I said, why don't you come into that partnership? Because I had another partner, Hector. When we finally came to terms, I went from 59-49 with my partner, Hector, to 33-33-33. And I quickly realized that I gave up control of that company. And Hector was a very passive guy, kind of like, hey, I don't want to get involved. And I'm a pretty easygoing guy. And Andy was a very, he had, let's call it strong leadership, right? He was in the Marines. He was up at 6 a.m. He had a mind map that I would wake up to. There was a meeting. And before I could even brush my teeth, there are 3 different meetings. And I'm like, wait, what about my ideas? What's going on here? And my ideas weren't heard. and I couldn't do anything about it. And I pretty much realized this isn't the company that I want to build, which is okay. There's no right or wrong, different visions. But when it all came down to it, I was, it was when it comes to the point where, well, it's either you or me or something like that. And I find myself kind of like Steve Jobs. Apple was his, and he got fired from his own company. I didn't get fired. I asked for a buyout, but essentially, I got a 2-year non-compete. I got a 2-year buyout, and I had money, and I wasn't allowed to work. And I went through a depression. I went through a terrible depression, because when you give an entrepreneur money, but you take away his creativity to work, I put on 20 pounds. I started smoking, was eating Doritos and watching Netflix and growing a beard and not showering for 2 days at a time sometimes. And I just went into a real depression. So when I started Groove, knock on wood, that things are going fantastically well here again. And I'm just blessed to have some good partners. We put in the right things ahead of time in the contracts, and allowing me to have the right control, creativity of the vision, and the software and the direction of the company. I don't have control of the money. We're equal partners and all that type of stuff. But what happened in the previous company can't happen again. So a little bit of a long answer, but I would definitely tell somebody, if they're going to have a partnership, don't think, oh, well, we're good friends, it's always going to work out. Negotiate the things now when it's easy, because when you're negotiating for you, you're also negotiating for your partner. What happens if I die? Well, how do we buy out the wife, right? And if I try to negotiate too strong against my partners, I'm screwing my wife, right? So I have to also look out for how she's going to get bought out. And by doing that, I'm also protecting my partners. We put all of that stuff in writing, and I feel very, very comfortable, if anything should ever happen to me, that she's going to be taken care of.
Well, cool. It was a longish answer, but it was a good answer. And I can relate to a lot of that you're mentioning. Like, I just came out of a 12-year business partnership about 6 months ago, and I had some of the similar thoughts that you mentioned of kind of saying like it sort of is what it is, and there's not really regret, but there's some like bad thoughts I kind of had to turn into more neutral thoughts. And that whole concept of it being like a marriage. Sometimes marriages end, they outlive their usefulness. I was even thinking that in the past 5 years or so of the business relationship, I kind of wasn't sure why I wasn't getting what I wanted to out of my partner. But then these last even few days, I was thinking, I probably was making him miserable too. It probably went both ways too. Yeah. So there's. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that, like, when there is no contract, it leaves to this inbuilt passive aggressiveness that's going to happen from both. And you start talking to your spouse about, this isn't happening. And like you said, they may be saying the same thing about you, and you're both kind of getting a little distance and pretending to be nice when you're together. But like at that point, you already know, or your subconscious knows, the writing's on the wall. And when you have the contract, it's so easy to look at it and say, well, I could either point to this or I could exercise this. And that was something that was always agreed upon. And it just makes it easier to either rectify something or separate, because not knowing how something's going to end because you don't have a contract, you have this stress of, how do I even bring this up? This is going to get ugly. Who's going to get the intellectual property? Am I going to get what I should get during the buyout? But when you have it written down, it even takes that stress, even because you have the right to say, this isn't fun anymore. It's been 12 years and I'm not the same person I was then. I have a kid now and everything like that. And if it's there in writing, you have the right to say, hey, remember when we spoke about this, that time has come. And then they know the same way you do, any day that these things can come, and we can cash out or check out under those terms.
That is very, very interesting to think about, that you make the painful decisions ahead of time. And when you have the contract, you can say, well, here's one of 4 lanes. I can just take this exit off ramp if I'm no longer happy, instead of, like you said, trying to bring it up, being stressed out about it later. Just get it taken care of ahead of time. And so transitioning us in this last few minutes here, speaking of getting things taken care of ahead of time, having a unified CRM, having a place that stores, that does email broadcasts and videos and all that stuff, that's something that is very important in our business, especially to have it set up ahead of time, but before it's too late, before the business is all in chaos. So can you tell us about what Groove is and why we should be using it, and why it's the most amazing software platform on the planet?
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate that opportunity. And I'll give, we have a little tracking link and a special gift for people when they use the URL so we can track our podcasts. And so to sign up, you can go to groovepodcasts.net. So it's the word podcast with an S at the end. It's plural, groovepodcasts.com. I don't know why I say .net, groovepodcasts.com. Forget the .net. All right. Having said that, Groove replaces 18 different software platforms that are all necessary to be effective online as a digital and an e-commerce marketer. And the first is the 4 publishing platforms that you need. Number one, you need a brand website. You can't do that with ClickFunnels. Maybe with ClickFunnels 2.0, they're talking about navigation, but essentially you need one of 3 things: Wix, Squarespace, or what I call the dreaded WordPress. And I'm a techie guy and WordPress scares me. So we wanted to get people completely off of WordPress. So Groove Pages as your brand site. Next, you want to do your marketing funnels. So that's Groove Funnels, and that's kind of like your ClickFunnels. The third thing you want to do is you want to have a blog. Well, there we go, back to WordPress. So we wanted to get rid of that. So we have Groove Blog, and now completely we can take care of all of your hosting. And then finally is your e-commerce store like Shopify, and that's Groove Cart. So we give all 4 of those, and the best part is it's all for free. We have 93% of our users never pay us a penny. 7% of them pay for premium. People will see that when they go to groovepodcast.com. Most of them will realize that the free works for them. And then after that, for their email marketing, and I'll rattle through these quick, we have Groove Mail to do your email marketing, Groove Sell to sell your digital products, Groove Affiliate to manage your affiliates. We have Groove Member, which is kind of like Kajabi, and we have Groove Video, which is like Wistia to do your split testing and things. And finally, Groove Webinar, which is like an automated webinar platform like EverWebinar. And in the spring, we're coming out with a live version and the stream version like StreamYard. So it's free and it encapsulates all those things. It works together, no using duct tape and Zapier and finding out that they did an update that no longer works. Everything just all works together, and it's easy and it's a lot of fun. People love it. And we have a community of 150,000 people in our Facebook group that they can join after they sign up for free.
Well, fantastic. And you're a sales guy. You're all about objections, right? Handling the objections. So
Yes.
What are the most common objections people have for not going to Groove? Do they say, I'm just too afraid of making something? Am I stuck with some other system? Why would people not take action on this?
Well, the first thing we like to do, great point, is we like to say, build your next funnel with Groove. So let's eliminate the objection of how hard is it going to be for me to make the switch? Bringing your pages over are very, very simple. We even have a URL importer so that you could import any URL off the web, and you can even pull the copy off if you can show that you own the website. And we show you how to do that. If not, we just replace it with Lorem Ipsum. The other thing is a lot of people say it's too good to be true. I've heard of these all-in-one builders before. We're not going to mention any of the names, but there's all-in-ones out there. And what we wanted to do, because of my background, I've created Webinar Jam. So I know it's the second largest webinar platform in the world. EverWebinar is the largest automated webinar platform in the world, and Kartra. So I've built those before, but we wanted to add some things that those platforms didn't have, like the e-commerce, like Shopify and the blog. And we said we're not going to create any of those, what we call tent poles. Like if we're going to build Groove Mail, we're not going to do it unless it's as good or better than ActiveCampaign. And we believe that Groove Sell is the most powerful digital platform to sell your products. Groove Affiliate has the most powerful and complex ways to set up affiliate programs, and you can do it the easy ways as well. I believe that Groove Pages and Groove Funnels is by far the best page builder out there, even agreed to by ClickFunnels. At Funnel Hacking Live, they showed all of the different platforms, Fast Pages, Kartra, Convertry, and they showed us as the #1 builder when it comes to speed by GT Metrics. And we believe that we did such a good job with this platform that we made ClickFunnels realize they weren't going to be able to compete with ClickFunnels 1.0. And for them to survive, and I give them all the credit in the world, they're coming out with ClickFunnels 2.0, and we think that's because of us. So as an objection, I think people may have said, I've heard of the all-in-one before. And then the other thing might be that, oh, this is a lot to learn. So what I say to people is, yes, Groove could be a little complex because there's 18 different apps, but what's the alternative? 18 different apps that you have to learn, 18 different logins, and 18 different apps from another company that weren't meant to work together. So at least You have one platform, and when you're ready to do your funnels, we'll be there. When you're ready to do your email marketing, your automation will be there. You just go into that app and start setting it up.
Well, you thought of everything. And even as a programmer, a technical guy, I can relate to having to do so much work getting these systems to talk to each other. And even in this day and age of Zapier, where you set up this and that, things fail and you never know if it's all working. And why put yourself through that? Like you said, why have 18 different logins? And something that you said in there, which was also interesting too, is that I first saw Andy Jenkins do, since we mentioned him earlier, was for your next project, your next product launch, your next website, just create it on this new platform. And I think that even having that mindset is super helpful, of just saying, like, the next new thing you're creating for your business, create it on this platform. That way you don't have to throw out anything old. You don't have to really think that much. You can really get into it and try it out. And you're not making a demo site, a lorem ipsum. You're saying, here's the next thing I want to use to make money. There might be a little bit of an awkward learning curve, but not much, just because I'm not used to using this interface, but I can actually put this system to the test and see if it works for me and see if it does what I want. And see if there's just a better way of doing things than the kind of in general, working without a contract in one way or another, not having a plan, not having a really good and well thought out system. And so groovepodcasts.com, is that right? Is that the place to go?
Yeah, groovepodcasts.com, PODCASTS.com, groovepodcasts.com. They can go there, they can sign up for free. And if they get in before the end of February 22nd, we do have a lifetime deal for the pro or the platinum level, which is 3 payments of $6.99. After that, it's $2.99 a month in perpetuity, which is still a great deal. So either way, but if they do get it in before there, they'll have an opportunity to get the lifetime, because we're wrapping up our beta. So that goes back to the question, what might be the objection? Some of the reviews they might read is that we're in beta. But that's what we're celebrating now. That's why I appreciate you letting me get on the podcast so we could scream from the rooftops that the beta is ending. And February 23rd, I'm very, very excited. We're moving to $2.99 a month. It'll be a traditional SaaS. And but between now and February 22nd, there's still a chance to get into that quote unquote Kickstarter type of project that we've been running for 2.5 years, where we said, pay us the 3 payments of $6.99 and you own it for life and never make another payment to us or anyone to run your business. So hopefully people can get in before February 22nd. If not, $2.99 a month is a better deal than paying everybody else $3,000 a month.
Fantastic. Then run, don't walk, go to groovepodcasts.com. And as we wrap up, wind down our conversation here, Mike, do you have any final parting words of advice? Anything to say to just wrap up this conversation?
I'm going to go to something. For some reason, I believe that it was you. I really used to enjoy your blogging. You were one of the guys that really stuck with it in the early days. And so tell me if I'm right, somewhere around 2009, 2010, maybe 2010, I remember seeing a blog post about that you were contemplating going full-time. Was that you that wrote that blog post? You had a job in the real world and you were scared to hell to so much so that you went out to your community and you wrote a blog post and said to everybody, what do you think about it? And I left a comment in there and I said, do it, you'll never look back. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And I think I quit about 6 months later. I didn't quit right immediately after that, but I remember your blog comment, and it seems like such a silly decision in hindsight. I was sweating it so much. And especially when you're young, I know it's a cliche, but like when you're in your early 20s, you can kind of pick up and go anywhere, do anything. And I'm glad I got a few years of employment just to kind of see what I was missing and to kind of, get some coworkers and things like that. But yeah, quitting, I'm so glad I did it. And I can't believe that I was as nervous as I was that I had to go and ask the blogging community about it.
Yeah. So that's my advice, is follow your passion. Entrepreneurs take risks. Don't do anything stupid. Make sure you have your ducks lined up. Will you be able to pay your rent, or can your spouse cover, or significant other cover the expenses while it takes to build up your business? But hopefully that advice will have somebody come up to you or me in 10 years from now and say, I was on that podcast. You gave me the strength to do what I needed to do to follow my dreams. And I never looked back, like you and I eventually did.
like the calculated risks that we took.
Yes.
Risk is
Yes.
fine. Just don't make a stupid risk. Make a calculated risk.
Yeah.
I love it. And the uncalculated non-risk to take right now is to go to groovepodcast.com and check out the platform, sign up, and take the very minuscule risk of seeing what it can do for you. Create some pages, create some funnels, create a webinar, create a live stream when they have that ability. Use it. You're going to love it. groovepodcasts.com, and we'll see you there.